Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I am not doing a normal book review, which I normally do, but I'm discussing 5 things I no longer do as a reader. I have been a reader for my entire life. Some of my earliest memories were my parents taking me to the library on Saturdays to get new books for the week. I have been an avid reader and I read many books, 150 to 250 every single year. So with the exception of the 4 years I was in college, I have read every single year for the last almost 30 years at this point. And there are some things that I used to do or I did at one point that I now no longer do, and I want to share with you in case you are feeling guilt or like you should be doing these things, and I'm here to tell you it's okay if you do not do these things. First is maybe an obvious one, but something that I used to do a lot of and now I no longer do, and that is read books that I'm not feeling. So if I am reading a book and the book is not for me, I'm not vibing with it, I don't like the story, it's not what I thought it was, my expectations were different, or it was the right book but the wrong time, I do not finish it. I do not force myself to read books that I am not enjoying. I think that there are plenty of good books out there that I will enjoy, and even though I read quite avidly, I read very consistently, I read every single day, I still have a lot of books that I want to read, and I'm not going to be able to get through them all if I spend a bunch of time reading books that I don't want to read. So I think that, again, there's 2 categories. There are books that are definitely not for me, I got and I don't want to read, but there's also books that might be good for the right time, but right now is not the right time and I want to read something else instead. Now, something that helps with this is I am a library reader. I exclusively get my books from the library with the exception of maybe a Christmas gift here or there or something I pick up at a garage sale. So I do not have physical money or my own money behind the line. My tax monies go to the library, but my personal money does not go to checking out a book. So I feel no guilt at all with returning a book to the library, either one that I don't like and won't be reading, or a book that I want to read later and maybe now isn't the right time. And I think one of the worst things readers do is when they force themselves to read books that they're not enjoying, that they don't like. Put it aside, maybe you'll return to it later. And this is where I think using a library comes in handy if that is an option for you, because then there's less guilt. You don't feel like, well, I spent $25 on this book, I need to finish it. Instead, you can just put it back and read it later, check it out later if you ever come back to it. Your money isn't on the line, just your tax money, and you can put it back and get it later. Now, there are 3 exceptions to me not reading books that I'm feeling. First is if someone personally recommended it to me, I will usually try to force myself to finish it to give an honest feedback and review when I discuss with that person. Second is anything I read for book club. I do try to finish those just because I'm going to be, again, having a discussion. And third, if it's a personal challenge I set for myself, like reading all of the Hugo Award winners and finalists for the novella and novel category, I will be doing all of those the best I can due to the fact that this is kind of a personal challenge I've set, but everything else, not feeling it, it goes back to the library. I can get it at a later time or not at all. There's plenty of other good books that resonate with me in the world. The second one is I just realized that there's only 4 things, not 5. The second thing on my list is not following my momentum. So if I am enjoying a topic, especially in nonfiction, or if I'm enjoying a genre in fiction, why would I step off that train? Sometimes what I used to do is think, I'm making these examples up right this moment, but if I'm really enjoying reading books on mythology, but then when I go to the library and I just finished 4 great books on mythology and I return them and I think, there's that book up on the fiction section that I've been seeing for a couple weeks and I know eventually I'm going to want to read it, so I better go grab that. I better, again, like rules, like I need to go grab that to read it right now. I'm not following my natural momentum that I have, that I've been reading mythology. So if I feel like once I get into momentum for something, I want to keep that momentum going for as long as possible until my interest naturally moves to something else. So if I have momentum going on a topic, I try to stick with it. Doesn't mean I deny myself reading everything else, but I don't, and this goes again with the right book, wrong time. Maybe that sci-fi or fantasy book would be great for a different time, but sticking with the momentum that I have usually means that I'm more motivated and I'm going to read for longer each time that I do read because I'm with my momentum. So now when I feel like I have momentum on a topic or a subject or a genre, I stick with it for a little bit. This also applies to authors. Right now I've been reading a lot of Jim Hines and Lee Brackett. So these are authors I know I have a little momentum with right now, so I'm reading more of, and I know that I can keep getting books from these authors until my momentum shifts or switches. I just find it easier to maintain and a little bit more sustainable with my reading habits. The third is I gotta read popular books now. That was something that I felt for a while, and it was one of my little annoyances or hangups with being a library user, is when there's a popular book, there's a line for it at the library. There is 37 people, 400 people, 800 people. These lines get crazy at the library to have that book on hold. Now, this can be a little different if you're a content creator and you're making money from reviewing books, and this I can see, but then again, it's probably a business expense to buy your books at that point. Wanting to be the first person to review the latest book, you want to hop on the trend. And there's also a level of, yeah, maybe if your friends are reading it, you'll eventually want to read it. But something that I do is recognize that that book is going to be there 2 years from now. That book is going to be there 6 months from now. That book is going to be there with fewer people on the wait list in a little bit. The only exception I make for this is if I'm reading particularly a manga series and I know the next one is coming out. Sometimes I'll get in line for that. But if there's a really popular book, I will just wait for it to become available or for the hold list to narrow down. I don't think that reading a popular book at the very moment is necessarily conducive because, first of all, going back to the momentum, maybe that's not where my momentum is right now. Maybe I'm really feeling sci-fi right now and that new hot nonfiction book is going to interrupt my flow. It's not what I'm feeling. Again, this all goes back to the right book at the wrong time. It could be a fantastic book, but it can wait. If I don't need to read the popular book that everyone is reading right now to be considered a reader, to be valid as a reader, to feel like I can talk about books. I don't need to have read the book that everyone's reading right now. And this maybe also falls in with the fact that I'm a library reader. If I bought my books, maybe I'd be more likely to read the popular books that everyone else is reading the moment it's being read. But because I'm a library reader and I can see these massive lines that will take years to get through or months to get through, I'll just let it sit. I feel like there's also a little FOMO going on where you think, well, if I don't read this book, then I won't understand all the memes or the jokes. I feel like I can't provide too much advice there. I don't get a lot of FOMO, but I feel like just reminding myself that book will still be there and I'll still be able to appreciate it. And especially if there's like content online, I'll be able to consume that content and enjoy that content when it comes out, it's still going to be there. So when I read the book, that stuff will be there too. And I'm not going to pressure myself to read a book that maybe I'm not feeling at this very moment just because it's hot or popular. Finally, the one that I really get passionate about, and that is only focusing on newer books. And I get it, when I go into the library, my library has a whole separate room devoted to the new sections. And there's beautiful shelves and they all have beautiful new stickers on it. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this book before because the library didn't have it. And now I can get it. Oh, this is so exciting. And I get the appeal and I love that new section and I find so many great books there and there's so many great books being published. So I get it. I'm not saying don't read newer books, but it's only focusing on newer books that I think is something that I really want to encourage people to do. Because when's the last time that you read something that was a non-classic that was written before 2000? Or before 2015 even, before 2010? I think a lot of what I see when I look at book reviews are either the people who are reading older stuff are usually reading classics, nothing wrong with that, or they're reading very recent publications, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of books in between those two time periods that are absolutely fabulous books that I feel like get missed when there's a focus on just these two time periods. And I want to encourage more people to reach out and just read books that weren't written in the last 5 years or are not in that special classics from this other time period. There's a lot of great books out there that when we artificially limit ourselves to that new section of the library, I feel like we can feel we miss a lot of what's in between. And I feel like missing what's in between isn't really something that I want to do. And I want to not limit myself to not reading a book because it was written in 1998 or it was written in 2005. And I can hear the complaints or the actual logical argument that maybe if it's a nonfiction book, it may be a little outdated. And I do agree if you're reading something about latest computer technology or current political tensions from 1987, it may be a little outdated with regard to the current state of things. But the cat's feeder has gone off. But I don't think that necessarily means, so yeah, there are some that are probably going to be so outdated it's not worth reading, but I don't also think that that precludes every single book that was written outside of the last 5 years from being read and being enjoyed and being a good thing to read. I'm so sorry about this cat's feeder, it just is loud. Anyways, those are my 4 tips. I had to count them because I miscounted in my notes. I have 4 tips, again, for things that I no longer do as a reader, things I used to do or things that I know other people do that I no longer do and I want to encourage you to not do. If you have any tips or things that you used to do as a reader that you now no longer do, please put it in the comment section below. I love to receive your comments and I love all your support on these videos. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you have a great rest of your day.